this whole episode came about because you had a spicy LinkedIn post. I mean, I don't know if you thought it was going to be spicy, but like, let's just walk this back a little, Peter.
Mhm.
For our listeners, like, why are we talking about field trips? Why are we recording this podcast?
So a few weeks before this actual podcast, we're recording it. I kind of threw out a post on LinkedIn about field trips, and it got people fired up. I think people have an emotional attachment to field trips. Which is fine, and I like it. But basically, I kind of threw out that it was an unpopular opinion of mine that high schoolers should not be taking field trips. Got a lot of reaction on that.
What even led you to like post this? You know, like I think a little, you know, like where did this like stem from? That you were like, well, I have a hot take on field trips. I don't think they're fruitful, good, whatever, in the traditional sense. So what even came at, like, why
Right.
You're listening to the Disrupt Education Podcast. Here are your hosts, Peter Hostrauser and Alli Dahl.
Welcome back to the Disrupt Education Podcast. Peter Hostrauser, that's Alli Dahl. Man, we're gonna go on a field trip today.
on the podcast?
On the podcast. So how you doing, Alli? What's going on with you?
Good. I mean, overall, I know I was sharing before we started recording. I have chickens. I've mentioned it before on the podcast. And chickens are a steep learning curve. If you have them, you probably know this. If you don't, like, you know, learning about like egg production and like how to care for chickens and everything is a whole thing. It was my first time having chickens. They're like 7 to 8 months old right now, so they are laying. But yeah, like I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up in suburbia. Like, you know, I like, you know, there are backyard chickens, but you know, I've gone to camps and gone to, you know, we're talking about field trips. Like,
Yeah.
I've never like milked a cow, or I mean, I've like fed goats at the zoo, or you know, like a little amusement fair thing, but
Mhm.
you know, it's another thing to like take care of an animal. And there's like a lot of application to this episode, but I'm just saying that like I wasn't taught any of this in school, but you know, taking care of something is a real skill, no matter what your reason for it is. And you know, so like people who have pets and whatever kind of pets, like, you know,
Yeah.
and but a lot of kids don't, or don't
Right.
have that experience.
Yeah.
And maybe I should have, just to kick this off, maybe I should have gone and done a field trip in air quotes, people were
I
going to
know we're
explain
air
why,
quoting field
um
trips.
to a farm, like
Yeah.
as a suburbanite growing up. But yeah,
So
okay, so
yeah.
this whole episode came about because you had a spicy LinkedIn post. I mean, I don't know if you thought it was going to be spicy, but like, let's just walk this back a little, Peter.
hmm
For our listeners, like, why are we talking about field trips? Why are we recording this podcast? Tell the listeners, like, give a little backstory so
Right.
that they can kind of know what's going on.
Yeah. So a few weeks before this actual podcast, we're recording it. I kind of threw out a post on LinkedIn about field trips, and it got people fired up. I think people have an emotional attachment to field trips. Which is fine, and I like it. I got a lot of reaction, and a lot of hits on LinkedIn. But basically, I kind of threw out that it was an unpopular opinion of mine that high schoolers should not be taking field trips, and I kind of pointed out that they should really be doing the work, maybe doing some. I think people took the word work a little bit differently. I probably could have done some different wording here, but hey, let's just say I didn't get a high score on my SAT. But I think like in high school, they should already be like working and solving community challenges and you know where real actual value are put out there, instead of just kind of having these I would say traditional field trips, and it might have been something I should have said there a little bit differently. But I really think like that exploration should live in earlier stages, elementary and middle school. Um, I wanted to go back into, you know, we just got off of a great series with U Science and understanding aptitudes and connecting, you know, their interest and their aptitudes, and then we drive them to maybe an experience and not just a field trip checkbox. So got a lot of reaction on that.
You definitely got a little reaction. Before we kind of like, break down maybe some people's hot takes or interpretations, like what even led you to like post this? Like I think a little,
Mhm.
like where did this like stem from? That you were like, I have a hot take on field trips. I don't think they're fruitful, good, whatever,
Mhm.
in the traditional sense. So what even came like why? Why'd you
Right. I
post
would
it?
I would say, okay, so if we're looking for building experiences for students and interest areas and understanding, would they connect with this? I would say it's less than 10% of the students are actually getting that. In my experiences, I've been in this business for 24 years. In secondary ed, I've been on many field trips, and I can tell you that usually it's like three at the most out of maybe 30 students would say, "Hey, that was really cool. I really want to kind of go into that or go to the next level and connect." The rest would say lunch was great, and I got out of school. Um, and that's just my experience. So I just kind of like wanted to throw it out there because I think we can be more intentional with what
Mm.
we are doing outside of school at the high school level. I don't know about you, and I never asked you this question, but I don't remember any field trips in high school that like ring a bell. I do remember a few in middle school and maybe one or two in elementary school, but I don't remember even I don't know if I went on one or anything like that. I know we went on like trips with our sports teams and our clubs, but I don't know. How about you? Do you remember any?
I have
Yeah.
one vivid field trip. It was for a photography class, and we
Mm,
went to Taylor's Falls, which is on the border of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and it was you were taking pictures for the project, right? It was like the final project. You had to make like a calendar, and design it with, develop your film and everything.
mhm.
And I mean, I I don't do film photography anymore. It's not that like I couldn't, but I remember because it was just like I like being outdoors. I like big open landscapes, and like it was a very calm, beautiful day, pretty
Mhm.
low key in terms of like field trip requirements, and like we probably had bag lunches. Drove there about an hour and a half away,
Mhm.
took some pictures for a couple hours, and then came back. Like but it didn't expose me to like a career or anything. It was part of the class.
Right.
I would argue that was a good use of a class. Like, let's get out of just taking pictures around the high school.
Sure.
Um, but the other field trips that I can remember are mostly like elementary, going to the zoo, going to like a science museum, going to I don't think this museum. It was actually like a grain museum, like probably related to farming of some kind. Like I remember like going down like the slide, like there was like slides and stuff as a kid, they had you exploring different seeds and stuff. But
Got it.
I think what we're trying to get at here is that like field trips and like from an educator perspective, um, how many times I had to sign off on kids leaving for field trips
Mm,
is that a traditional field trip, from what I've seen in teaching, is it can be like an institutional or like a teacher field trip that they just do because they've always done it.
right.
And it maybe it adds value to the class, maybe it doesn't. It's just something that we do, but we don't necessarily have a framework for it, or like asking ourselves like, why are we doing this field trip? How does it contribute? And I know there are plenty of quote unquote field trips that are very purposeful and meaningful, but I just think it's one of those topics that people don't question. Like, oh,
Right.
well, we've always done field trips, so we're just going to keep doing them.
Hmm.
And then but not like stepping back and thinking like, what is our educational framework around field trips?
Right.
I think that's what we're trying to get at here. And some people from your post were like, you're devoid of wonder if you don't think it should have field trips. I was like,
I'm a
well,
robot.
yes, you are a robot, Peter. Oh my gosh. What would you say to some of the comments that you
Well,
saw?
I get it. I do get it because I think the majority of people who are like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Had probably pretty good experiences, and they were may have been in the 10%. It's interesting because when you do read through the most of the posts that the comments, most of the people are in education around it. So, and that's fair. I think one of the challenges that I see is when students go somewhere else and then it becomes a sit and get and maybe a tour, right? Um, I, I've it's some of them were, they were like, "Oh, you're just really putting, kids to work and that's all, and it's no fun and different things like that." And then I kind of wanted to, get out like this illusion of like just seeing something isn't really all that great. It can be boring, right? And since COVID, there have been a lot of times, much more, where students will actually either call in sick or skip the entire field trip. So, and I think it's because of it's just another thing. They got to get on a bus, they got to go somewhere, and a lot of times they're just not getting anything out of it. There's no connection to them. It's like a lot of educators who are very, very passionate about what they teach, and I think that's a great thing. Don't get me wrong, but they may have this place where they want to go and just want to show students, but don't really attach it to the students. It's all just curriculum, curriculum, curriculum. And I really think that's the problem. That becomes a challenge because, again, it's just kind of a checkbox sometimes for teachers. And I think we can get really intentional around the design of these things. That's why. And in a field trip, I feel like should be renamed. And I think a couple of people said this in the comments. It should be renamed maybe a field experience or something where you get to do something and create value and or show what you know to a professional or an organization or an area of the world that you can actually go into. So yeah, I think it's very different. I have seen some very interesting one. I've actually done a quote unquote overnight field trip camping in the dunes up in Michigan with a great science educator, and I was just one of the people that was there, being the adult. And it was amazing because a lot of the students had never experienced that. And that became more of a social thing, right? Like that,
Mhm.
it wasn't intended for that. I mean, there was cool different things around science and biology, um, in wildlife and such, and how the dunes were formed, etc. Um, but it was more social than anything. Students had never slept in a tent, and those types of things. And that one, there was a lot of paperwork in that bad boy too. So that's another thing we can get to is those logistics.
There are a lot of logistics. I think field trips, um, as they are traditionally speaking, um, there's a lot of opportunity to kind of uh shift them. And it's not just like a naming thing, but
Yeah.
like what if the school leadership and teachers were like, these are the experiences that we want students to have, and just like have it be more intentional, more unified.
Hmm.
Two previous guests come to mind with what you were sharing. One, Scott Carr saying like, what is the purpose of like, why are we here?
Hmm.
And like, if you that has to be in everything that you do, right? Like that
Yeah.
includes excursions outside of the school. Like, and if students understand the purpose of like why they're doing this, how this connects to their journey and everything, then I don't think you'd have students like bailing out. Like they'd want to be there. They'd have reason for that. And then the other guest I'm thinking of is Jason Walkie, actually. And their their internship, or they had like piloted this year, like every
Hmm.
Monday is like a community day.
Mission
Um
Mondays. Yep.
Mission Mondays.
Hmm.
And so there's a lot of purpose behind that type of work. I can imagine that's like, I would really love to hear Jason's perspective, like students' perspectives now, like having done it for, half a school year, and wonder if that's like their favorite day of the week. I would imagine it's possibly like I know I would have really enjoyed that kind of purpose. It's local, it's in the community, and there's a framework to it.
Hmm.
There's plenty of different ways to do this, but it is trying to shift like awareness of high school students to like what's out there. Like I would advocate that better done in like middle school
Hmm.
to, now we're in high school, how can we like activate and coach students and then hopefully actually get to like application and empowerment um in career readiness. So it's like they're the purpose behind like what are field trips purpose in elementary school versus middle school versus high school, and like the intentionality in the school district and all of that, aligning all of that. Like I just think there's a lot of opportunity for that
Hmm.
uh that I did not see when I was a full-time teacher, and I don't think you've seen as a teacher.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, and I really like how you frame that, the career awareness going into career readiness. And I mean, some people will look at career and like, well, that's a bad word or whatever. I don't think so. I think it's really kind of like you said, putting your interest and your purpose and maybe your aptitudes together to kind of do some things. I mean, I can speak a little bit about in different schools in different districts that I've been in, which I've been in six different ones so far. Um, and I think one of the things that always comes up is, I mean, the legwork of actually, building these. Field trips are difficult to create. Okay. And I don't want to take anything away from people who are doing field trips and you're like, now you're just telling me not to. No, not at all. I'm just, it's very difficult to actually be intentional with everything that's on the plate of an educator, number one. So I think you have to have kind of a culture shift in your school district, right? It can't just be, all right, well, Allie, you're the chemistry teacher, so you've got to create a trip. It's got to be kind of a group and a team effort. And I think one of the things that I am blessed to do and be a part of a team at Naperville is, we do start like our Motivate event, which is an event where students go into different pathways. And they talk to people, right? It is quote unquote a field trip, but and again, it's in eighth grade and it's intentional. The students actually have a pamphlet or a booklet that they have to interview different people in different pathways. So it kind of gets them out there. There's structure to it. They get to choose. They get the list of everybody, and they get to choose beforehand. And that's basically interest so far. But boy, I don't know what that would look like with aptitude. That's what I'm very curious about. But then we get into, as our students move all the way through, there's team-based challenges and different things like that. I mean, if you want to know who's doing that, nationally, that's District Zero, not District Zero, sorry, District, is it Z, right?
See?
Yeah, C. I'm going through the alphabet here and numbers. No, District C, I'm sorry. Um, and they're doing those, but our students go through those in coursework too, where kind of outside comes in. I'll tell a few stories about that here in a minute. But then in our internship program, so here I am saying high school students shouldn't go on field trips, yet we've taken students on field trips. However, we're very intentional on our students who have chosen pathways. So, for
Mm,
instance, we will take our finance and accounting students, and it might be seven or eight. We're not talking 30 into a financial company right? And we've had, really great people. I just want to give a shout out to Calamos, which is in Naperville in Chicago. Actually, it's worldwide, but their headquarters are near us. And we were able to go and talk to the CEO. John Calamos came out and talked to those 7 or 8 students. So that's intentional. Do we have work to do? Yeah, we could do a little bit more with that. So I think that's kind of where we're starting to plant the seed. But a couple other things like I wanted to bring up these experiences, right? So what we talk about micro internships, but what about a micro experience?
Mm.
Um, One time, it was back in the day at a different school, but we had Hyatt come in. We had a couple of C-suite folks from Hyatt hotels come in, and one of their corporate headquarters are downtown here in Chicago. And they came and worked with our students on a project. And certain students who excelled at that project, so they're almost doing an aptitude test with this, were
Mm.
then invited to do a presentation for their new incoming CMO on a quote unquote field trip downtown. So they actually were able to leave school. They were able to bring the value of different ways, and it was a marketing course of how to market a certain area of the world for new like Hyatt clients. And that was the CMO came in and watched that. And what was crazy about this and awesome was the winning team of that, and there were 3. And by the way, they were handpicked by the other C-suite gentleman who is head of diversity and inclusion. Like he handpicked them right in front of everybody. It was amazing. I mean, we coach the people who didn't get chosen, and that's what we do, right? We provide a safe place to learn. And those students who won, quote unquote, or had the best presentation voted, literally got like $100 steak dinner, like out with the CMO. It was incredible. So I think that to me was like the capstone of an intentional quote unquote field trip. So I kind of really like these experiences and kind of challenging businesses to kind of evolve with these thoughts on a field trip.
I agree. I mean, we're talking like you have an untapped potential. You have these wide-eyed, bright-eyed young people
Hmm.
that want to experience the world. They want to understand what's next for them. And this isn't about like locking people in. We said that a ton on the Youth Science series, but it's like there is this great opportunity for local businesses and leaders.
Hmm.
Because I'm guessing that steak dinner, yeah, okay, it was $150 steak dinner, but like the time that you got to chat with the CEO with however much experience they
Yep.
had, that's the invaluable part. And so it's like just it is still like yes, in middle school I would argue like more exploration and just guidance, but like
Hmm.
the coaching and an opportunity to activate high schoolers and partner with local businesses, local challenges. Like anybody can walk around their main street and find opportunities of things that they'd be interested in working on. And like why not have a Main Street fair? I don't know. I'm thinking of this off the cuff, people. This
Hmm.
is, but I'm just saying, like, students could pick and choose which
Right.
businesses or which, if they're all the doors are open
Hmm.
and people are coming to talk to students, and like the students are pointing out, like, what if it's merchandising? What if it's just the marketing, just the like how to clean and amplify, beautify what what if it's like more like the construction type aspect. I mean, I'm thinking of like on Main Street you've got tons of industry
Hmm.
there that kids could self-select and they could be coached by real people, and this co-designing it, yeah, there'd definitely be legwork, there would be a lot of upfront work, but this has surely been done. I'm thinking of I believe Jeff Stenruse, they
Yep.
have their it's like a community expo.
Hmm.
And like the next level of that might be to even like the community people are also like, here are some things we want students to work on and
Right.
create those experiences and give time in the school year to address those.
Yeah.
So yeah, and even if you are going to do a quote unquote traditional field trip, I know we've heard about like again just intentionality and like the reflection portion
Hmm.
of it. I know you've mentioned it before, but like that's what I think is different. I can think of a field trip. I don't even remember where it was in high school. All I have a vivid memory of is getting on the bus because I got on the wrong bus and I had to like switch buses. Couldn't tell you where we went or what we did, but like uh but like maybe if there had been like a reflection or if it was tied into something, like I would have more like more there. So like when you're thinking about creating these experiences, like what are you thinking about in terms of like the reflection process or the intentionality process here?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think one of the things we have to do is tie these to durable skills. We we've got to kind of, I think in the world, we've got to help people understand and experience, number one, you're right, that reflection, but what are they reflecting on? Well, how are they like feeling, interacting, and or maybe producing or bringing value to something in the community, right? And also reflecting on what skills they're actually using, because 9 times out of 10, it's not a technical skill. It's going to be I problem solved this, or I worked on a team to work on this as well. So there's a lot of different things here in those experiences that I think that our internship courses are very they're a lot of writing. There's a lot of journaling that our students do because we have to give them pause to think about what they are doing in the sense of their durable skills. Everybody and anybody who is out there in the world, professional and organizations, businesses, whatever, just want people who are curious and willing and hungry to learn. They don't want checkboxers. So these are great opportunities in when people experience something to really reflect on it and not give it to the teacher or for a grade,
Mm,
but give it like to build their own value, excuse me. So like, I used to work a lot with Spike View and those types of things like portfolios and student showcases. We can go even to, I mean, you can morph something like a trip or a learning experience or a micro experience into then taking it into the reverse career fair that Jason Van Nuss does. Like, there's a lot of different ways that these reflections can come out. But at the end of the day, we've got to get out of that traditional, okay, we went on the field trip, answer these questions, da 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 da, because I mean, let's be frank, like AI can do that, right? It's like I give me questions and I'm just gonna put this out there. But if you have people experience and have to perform, and
mm,
maybe that's what I meant instead of work, but they have to perform.
yeah.
That's going to be something that's scary, and also something that can be coached and can be in a safe place, even in an experience. Even bringing the experience inside the school, right? So that's why I want to hit on that Coca-Cola. This is one of my favorite stories, and I always remember this because I remember the two people who were part of a team, and that's when we were working with Coca-Cola, and they were up on their their contract with the school. So they wanted to do something, and we just hit the sweet spot. And I started talking with the representative, and she was amazing. And I won't say her name because she's moved on, but like. She was like, let's try this. We have a sales competition, and we need your students to create a way to motivate to and a prize for a sales competition. And lo and behold, the day, so that was a couple of intros, and so the actual field trip came into the school. And then our students were able to work on that project and interact with professionals via email, phone calls, etc. And The day the presentation happened, the CMO of the regional area of the Chicago area showed up. So you had kind of a bigwig show up, if you will, and two students came to me and they were like, "Our third person on the team has the project, and we don't have access to it, and he's not here." And so I moved him into the back and into the back of the lineup. They went last, and it was the worst presentation ever. But that experience, I was able to coach them through it, and they were like, "We'll never forget this." I'm like, "Yeah, you guys learned the most here." So that technically could be a field trip, but however, what happened to the winning team, they were able to go to the distributing company of Coca-Cola and see it. So there you are, right? You're giving people, like, even if somebody doesn't like that type of work, that's fine. We still need to find places in areas, and I like that idea that you were talking about, creating a whole day where, or maybe even a week where the community comes together. We match aptitudes, we match interests, and then there's projects in this. And you and I know, like, math, science, English, history, world languages, art, all this can be implemented into this. Because at the end of the day, it all goes to some sort of value that you're bringing to help others, be better human beings. So, yeah, I was rambling there, but I just had to get that
It's
Coca-Cola one in there. I love that. I love that story.
it's so good. And this is just a way to reimagine like the purpose of school and field trips, right?
Hmm.
Like we're just trying to help those who maybe have done the same field trip for the last 10 years reimagine like its purpose and how it could fit into a bigger picture.
Hmm.
And I think we're just trying to challenge those listening to this podcast, like, well, the next time you plan a field trip, like maybe ask yourself, like, what are the students producing,
Hmm.
reflecting on, or connecting to their future? And just a reframe. And I'm thinking about, and I think I've shared this on the podcast before, maybe, but actually the best field trip, quote unquote, I've ever gone on was when I was an educator and I went to a water treatment facility plant and it was absolutely the coolest thing to understand how the water like came out, like gets to come out of the faucet at my house. And the whole, yes, okay, I'm a chemistry
Yeah.
person, so like of course I thought it was interesting. However, like I didn't even know that these types of careers existed.
Hmm.
Like, and I had a chemistry degree, right? Like that I could have gone into this. So it's like there's and the tour was really cool because they were showcasing all the different types of skills and people who worked on it. And then we got to do some water testing as part of the experience. Now, that would be very easy to have students do water testing and then like do something with it. Like, well, what if they tested water and it came out bad? Like, where could it go? Like, how could we help the community, with different filters or different awareness campaigns and
Hmm.
stuff? Like, it could turn into something so much bigger than me just talking about water in my chemistry class. Like, that field trip came like the 2019-2020 school year. So it kind of got derailed on its purpose being integrated into my classroom because everything shifted. But what I'm saying is that, like, you know, I did that as a professional development
Hmm.
field trip with other educators. And I'm thinking, like, if I was planning a field trip now for science, like, that would be it could be tied into the whole semester worth of learning,
Hmm.
second semester.
Yeah.
And it isn't just a field trip, it's an experience that we're going to bring back to the whole course, but help students like get to know their community and water, which is pretty essential. Like there's you could think about that for any coursework. Like if you're just an educator, you're like, I can't make systemic change across the whole district. Okay, like what can you do if you're gonna plan experiences and you're gonna tie stuff into your curriculum, you know, like how can it be just more than a day, half day field trip?
Mhm.
We're just out and about, but like how could it fit into a bigger thing? And I think that would give students more purpose um
Yeah.
for field trips.
Oh, I love that. I would have been horrified. I don't know if I want to know where my water comes from, but no, I mean, to your point, like extending these, I like experiences over field trips. There's a couple of things I do want to say, and there was a couple of people who are just like, I think high school is too young, and I want to challenge you on that. I don't think it is. I think our students can do way more. We are just locking them down, and I think we're pigeoning them, holding them a lot into just checking the box. And I think we do need to get back to experiences and giving our students some work to do and to really help them understand they do bring value.
Hmm.
Because let's be honest, right? The data says that about school works almost perfectly or like in the A B range if we want to go there for about 20 to 30% of our students, right? What are you doing with 70% of the students if they're not experiencing? How many people have heard um, stories of the kid who got C's or D's in school and is now starting three businesses, or a successful somebody in the trades, or just not like didn't go the academic route? And maybe they were not exposed to that. So these are the things I think I don't believe at all that high school students are too young. There's a maturity
Hmm.
thing, sure. But if you come to this with the right mindset, if you have a community of learners, a community of schools that get together, make these field trips or field experiences or value-based kind of learning that students are really connecting, an easier thing. I'm talking about taking away the blockers, taking away the crazy amount of paperwork. And it takes more than a teacher because the teachers will get burnt out just doing all this alone. And trust me, I've worked in districts where I literally had to, put my car insurance up into the world and cut off my left hand to, say, okay, we're going on this field trip. It's insane. So we need to look at those blockers as well, but really need to look at career awareness earlier. And the reason is not to stick kids into careers for the rest of their lives. I want people to know that. The reason is to have them understand their aptitudes. If we can get some sort of aptitude place, I'm telling you, U Science is a great place for that. Jason Van Nuss, just reach out to him, and then attach them to interests, and then really guide experiences that way on a more personable level for each and every student. And I know that's difficult, but I think
Hmm.
it's necessary. And then become very intentional with what you're doing with local organizations. It can be inside the school and outside the school. Just like you said there, Allie, you could have the students, we're going to go here and then we're going to come back and we're going to work on a project that extends it. So I think, that's really what we do here at Disrupt Education. I mean, we love connecting learning to life. And we really would love to hear some of your examples. So if you guys can comment on these. Again, I really want to say, it's really not about ending the beloved field trips, okay? It's really about redefining them and really taking that in. So, for those who really hated on me, thank you. I really want to thank you because it really made us think
Hmm.
about, okay, well, what was I trying to say? And maybe my communication wasn't all there on this post. But I think we moved the needle forward a little bit here on being more intentional on, the way that we do these interactions with the community and these experiences. Final thoughts, Allie. What do you think?
I gotta do a throwback to Jason Van Nuss. This is probably the first time he was on the podcast.
Hmm.
He talked about we gotta have a barbecue
Yep.
and we gotta burn some sacred cows. And yeah, for field trips, I think there's an opportunity for a barbecue here and kind of just like releasing what we thought they needed to be, and again, redefining, reimagining what they could be, and creating a framework from kindergarten through 12th grade. What do the different levels look like? And just being super intentional. I think that's really what we're trying to bring to light here in this episode, and that field trips, you know, you can't disrupt education if you're not questioning every part of it. And field trips are like one of those ingrained things that we're questioning. We're like, are they purposeful? Are they meaningful? Do we need them? Like, that's why we love having these conversations. So yeah, bring on the commenters and the hot takes, and challenging topics, because that is how we disrupt education. That's how we move the needle, and that's how we help kids.
Absolutely. Don't forget to head over to disrupteducationpodcast.com. Check out everything that Alli and I have going. Connect with us on LinkedIn. We do have a lot of conversations there as well. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us on the field trip episode. I love that. It was great. And I want to thank you, Alli, for kind of bringing it up. Like, we should just have an episode on that post. So thank you as well. For Alli Dahl, I'm Peter Hostrasser. We'll catch you next time on the Disrupt Education Podcast. Thanks for tuning into the Disrupt Education Podcast. If this episode sparked an idea, pushed your thinking, or made you look at education a little bit differently, well, that's the point. We're here to elevate real stories, real people, and real change within our schools and communities. If you want more conversations like this, head over to disrupteducationpodcast.com. You'll find episodes, resources, and ways to connect with Alli and I. Hey, let's keep disrupting, because the future belongs to the learners who dare to do things differently. We'll catch you next time.